Good evening, everybody. Good evening and welcome to Shakespeare & Company. Metro lines are like constellations that allow us to make sense of the chaotic 21st century metropolis. Their tunnels, staircases and platforms are liminal spaces where the hierarchy of social class collapses and which are transformed into arenas of high emotion by enforced physical proximity with strangers. They also, in their many and varied iterations, provide a point of common reference for residents of cities as apparently distinct as New York, Paris, Moscow and Mumbai. And yet the rich life of a metro network is particularly difficult to capture on the page. That sense of movement, of interchange, the infinitely intricate, unchoreographed dance of millions of commuters, which only highlights what an achievement over and underground in Paris and Mumbai is. The fruit of a four-way collaboration between poets Karthika Naïr and Sampurna Chatterjee, and artists Joëlle Jolivet and Roshni Vayam. Over and Underground is a thrilling cross-continental dialogue, wrought to the rhythms of the rumbling trains, a reading experience like no other. Nair's and Chatterjee's compositions riff on the surrealist game of the exquisite corpse, with the last line of Nair's poem becoming the first of Chatterjee's and so on, producing a feeling of giddy simultaneity as they hop between cities. Their playfulness with vocabulary and mastery of both the explicit and underlying rhythms of language conjure within the reader all the sensations of momentum, of mild disorientation, of fleeting connection and of surrender to the crowd that shape any excursion underground. As for the artwork, it doesn't just represent life in these two great cities, but recreates and reinvents it. Vayam's intricate and playful drawings portray an almost mythological Paris, a Paris of the dream time, populated with totemic animals and sentient objects, while Jolivet's frenetic lines dizzyingly capture the urban hustle of Mumbai. As a reader who knows Paris well, but has never visited Mumbai, Over and Underground was both an opportunity to see my city with fresh eyes and the invitation to embark on a journey of discovery. We're delighted that two of the book's contributors, artist Joëlle Jolivet and poet Karthika Naïr, are with us tonight. Joëlle Jolivet has illustrated numerous children's picture books, book covers and novels around the world, including The Honey Hunter and An Indian Beach by Day and Night. Karthika Naïr is the author of several books, including The Honey Hunter and the award-winning Until the Lions. She was a principal scriptwriter of choreographer Akram Khan's Desh and is an experienced executive producer and enabler of multiple dance productions. As you've probably already guessed, Karthika and Joëlle have conceived something quite special for us tonight. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Karthika Naïr and Joëlle Jolivet to Shakespeare & Company.
Line 5, the last duet. Stalingrad, en route to 8 a.m., there'd seldom be much place for hearts to settle or stay. 40 pairs or so of feet would fidget, fence, lurch and trip through Gare de l'Est, République and Oberkampf. By Bastille, he'd begun to sip newsprint, Le Monde or its weekend supplement, and dream-shot, half-clad lips, turn by turn, one with relish. And you'd listened, ears wrapped in France Inter, listened through stations, crowds and kisses, to Bernard Maris, crosswords with Dominique Sir, like on any other Friday. Listen to Maris slam greed and growth unbridled, Sir untangle cutbacks, layoffs, the endless spiral of state thrift, and both seek a gentler realm for earthlings. Listened till Campo Formio to crucial affable debate. Listened, unknowing this would be their last duet, unsullied by grief, horror, the end of nameless freedoms, another kind of unbeing. From Sampurna, Churchgate to Charney Road. Another kind of unbeing occurs when he gets off the train at Charney Road onto the tracks in the middle of the afternoon and begins to walk back to where he came from. Not Churchgate, where he got on, but all the way back to Azamgarh, Muzaffarnagar, Patiala, Baramati, Faridabad, Munger, Banaras, Jalpaiguri, Asansol, Bishrampur, Hospet, Jalandhar. All the way stations in his derailed geography, his splintered psychology. He, not single anymore, not a single shard of shadows slitting the afternoon in two, but a succession of men pouring into the gap between the tracks, their bodies thin, undernourished, overwhelmed this procession of many one. This is the greatest longing, to get off and go back. It happens once a day between 2 and 3, when the tracks stay clear and the pie dogs sleep and all intents undone. From Sampurna, central line, swaying between left and right. Every single deity I have not sought since turning adult and reverently agnostic is with me now on the 109 slow from Maratha warrior to the Thane, Thane of Fife. At Masjid, they blow the horns and all stampedes end in prayer. 7 palm trees genuflect. At Samuel Street, the Juni Masjid, not mosque at all, but synagogue, throws open its 200-year-old gate of mercy. At Sandhurst Road, the old Gov has not yet heard the story of his imminent demolition and curls his toes appreciatively as the female loudspeaker warns us to mind the gap in 3 languages between the floorboard and the platform while alighting. From the train, please do not leave your belongings from here to way back when. Historic since 1921, the deity of preservation rides past the banyan tree on the left and garlands of shiny packets that hang around the necks and arms of little shops, while on board, the beggar blind has been clicking his coins in tune with his song since the very beginning of time, to the deity of give unto others as you. At Baikula once, owned by a Portuguese king, please do not lean out of the running train. So roomy ahead, all the empty handles like handcuffs missing their prisoners out on parole. All the solitaires like me, missing broad swathes of yellow, blue, green on the left, where a couple catches a private moment on a miraculously empty platform. Deity of miraculous emptiness be praised. On board, the sari-clad, gazelle-eyed beauty stares thoughtfully at me from an "Are you being harassed?" poster, winsomely winning me over to her gentle way of resisting every molester with a simple phone call. Deity of self-preservation, to you, my kickboxing classes I dedicate, to you, my karate chops, fresh, grilled, light, rare, well done, to you, my taekwondo salam. I am trained, fit and able to take on any and all the scum. But Chinchpogli, you mad tamarind, you sweet child of betel nut and tamarind. Chinchpogli, you landlord sister of the Hooghly. You almost passed me by, asbestos-sheeted roofs, ghar baithe kaam, recumbent ladder on brown shroud. Deity of honest labour, to you, my Lal Salam. At Bhandupeshwar, home in 1881 to 884 souls sold by the alderman Ashburner, along with a contract for supplying the government with rum, for the grand old sum of £50,000. Where are you now, divine imbiber? Where that temple to intemperance, where the grand old high was brewed until it trickled away? Place of epiphany this, struck by lightning idea. Here is where it happened. Brainwave to connect Bombay to Thane, circa 1843. 10 years later, lo and behold, the first train pulled by Sahib, Sindh and Sultan. Baptized locomotives that took in 14 carriages, 400 passengers from Boribandar to Thane, 3:35 in the afternoon of the 16th day of April. Not even part of Bombay yet, Bhandup, till 1950. And here I am, 2017, buzzed on nothing but now, noticing with the clarity of the drunk that shopper lady with her multiple bags has a tattoo on her right hand, all over the mound of Venus. Deity of mounds, let there always be removable tattoos and undying love. On my right, a purple blur of speed. On my left, a dense outgrowth of rusty barbed wire. Who are they keeping out now? At Nahur, I see that the handles, empty of hands, are more like stirrups awaiting feet, boots, gallopers' toes, and that Tai's bag has been clamped tight under her right arm all along. On my right, a mauve man eats lunch covertly out of his dabba. On my left, the road is at eye level, empty of shoes walking, like the view from a basement flat. Deity of shoes, of flats, of walking, let there always be light. At Mulund, a dark girl with skin like honey roast enters, filling her body to crackling. Harassed? Look wistful and gazelle-eyed. A mother and child looking for Papa get in and out as the train pulls out, so perilous to life and limb. Deity of fools, protect us all. On my left, a cheerful wall. On my right, the first truly crowded platform in ages. It's Tain Thane at 1403. Deity of safe arrivals, I'm home. Line 7, home is done. Departure is delayed, imparts a male voice spin-dried to dispel all sediments of warmth or vexation. Due to a glitch in the signal box, pause. And, purely technical as problems go, this one will be solved rapidly. A carol of collective breath rings through the carriage. Faulty signals then, not dubious, nor bleak cartons, nor disturbed arsonists, conveys our lightened exhalation. Home is where they know your worst unspellable fears, but won't let on they do, nor admit there is no magic wand to vanish certain demons. Home is the grim cheer in being unsafe, here much rather than at an unchosen elsewhere. Off we go, with a judder uncommon and a jolt, mere seconds after a treble lights up the air. Will they stick needles, Maman, into the signal box? Will that hurt the metro? By Kremlin-Bicêtre, 3 stations down, the lad, all frizzed crew-cut and polka-dotted bow tie, has drifted to concerns more sartorial. Why heels, Maman? And why aren't you in tights today? Because I have a dress on, Munchkin, and heels go well with dresses. It's far too hot for tights, you see. His mother, stunningly poised both in hazel skin and green silk, neither laughs nor starts at the query up next. Why do we wear knickers? Lucky, that thought, his first home's built on boundless, welcome inquiry. At Pont-Marie, they disembark to salute Notre-Dame, her 9 bells and gargoyles, before heading Gare du Nordwards, where plates of fiery beef burrata await, limitless here and licit. At Pont-Marie, ripples of tongues, Polish, Arabic, American, Mandarin, Tamil, Spanish, Korean, suffuse the amber-tinted air. A giant Eiffel Tower lurches down a cleavage bearing the promise, what happens in Paris stays in Paris. While Arc de Triomphe, Louvre and Sacré-Cœur turn cartwheels on a skirt. So many drape our city over hearts and hips, waists and arms and wrists. So many, but we ourselves. By Châtelet, the ripple swells into torrent. Legions and legions of heels pound steel-tipped concrete stairs on the platform, to the platform. Some sidestepping, some near tripping on. An islet of quiet we'll call Abdul for the sake of custom. Middle-aged, unshaven, clad in any of 5 sets of clothes, whichever the season. Plastic tumbler in hand for handouts. Is he from Syria, Libya, or Yemen? I never dare ask, never dare to make him more than barely motile statuary. resistance, frailty, memory, all at once. But for 3 years, there he's been, more constant than daylight over ground, as gentle, tired as the Buddha cast at Louvre Rivoli, Malraux's exemplar of Eastern art. Palais Royal, Musée du Louvre now, devotes more light and room to foreigners, mostly otherworldly ones. En route to the Carrousel, spirits, gods, ancestors, beasts and herbs and blossoms, beings from heaven, earth and heaven and the netherworld, beckon. Huichol spirits from distant Jalisco in the mountains of western Mexico beckon through shaman Santos de la Torre Santiago's colossal fresco, that bedazzling mosaic with 80 panels and beads a full 2 million. For life and song and death and dance. Finest of quid pro quo, this fresco, a swap with the Mexicans for our own escutcheon, an Art Nouveau entrance by Guimard to the metro in 1900. More stations, more wonders, more spats, crowds and laughter, traverse town with the steel-wheeled rolling stock of Line 7 before my terminus. Thought stills. After day and night, cloud and rain, dusk and sunshine vanish with the skyline. Thought stills. Soon, so does time, till alarm and iMessage both ping at Chaussée d'Antin, Lafayette, and the general's large grimed finger overhead points at impending delay. Le Pelletier, Cadet, Riquet, there are a near dozen stations more before Porte de la Villette. However will I reach before tonight's premiere? Panic and bile rise in lilac swirls, till, no sweat, we'll sneak you in through the stage door, stretch the first song or something. Yes, here is where and why I belong. From Sampurna. This is a poem called Ongoing and Underway. Of all the lines, this alone shall be almost all underground. Kolaba, Bandra, seeps, pounding boom, shake, boom. I see the city drown. From book to book I moved, writing imminent doom, always a drowning end. Is it here at last? History of disappearances catalogued, dirty love caroused. I told again and always the story of the end. Imagined erasures on epic scale, transformative substances made flesh and metal kin, held disclosure at the core of every morning, inscribed proximities that revealed how far we were and close. The subterranean called. I sang its song. And now it waits for us to plunge, carrying hope into its innards and loss. My love song has been sung. Hide, the future is coming. The flayed hide of the beast I loved is salving its own wounds. I must believe. When all lines are up and running, these will seem like carp, grumblefish unready for change, moping through rivers of doubt and grief and loss. Topographies morph. I accepted that once. Why then not now? Now, change troubles, tectonic forms erupt, blasting was, would, will always be this way. Possessiveness, my acknowledged fault. Let the deluge come. When the trains come crashing down, making waterfalls of awnings, racing rapid over roof cliffs onto rail tracks, making every route impossible, washing thousands into homeless guttering streams, when everything stops or is simply swept away, perhaps here alone we shall be home and dry. The future, winged insect, or temptation to take none of it to heart, absolve all belonging and start anew. On the way, going on, going under, roots may cling, limpets leach, guerrillas wage, subversions live. What now? Out of old ugliness, let new ugliness come. Stitch back. This ripped up stretch will then be only scar. Below our feet will then be only norm. Low rumble of line 3, yet to be. The future I might not live to see. Against impending dark, I raise remembered undergrounds. Praha's windy tunnels, vertiginous treads, walls wedded to words. London's toothpaste tubes and choking air, claustrophobia, coagulation, halt. Kolkata's companionable ways, just 2 lines, up and down, so easy to board and be. New York, urbane and even, familiar from movies, scene, and S&G. On screen, a map of rivers opens out before me, all metro lines present and future, colored and connected. Unmoved by these glittering skeins, I cling instead to the one small thing I've learned. The TBMS are not unnamed. Surya, Vaitarna, Tanasa, Tappi, Krishna, Godavari, Wainganga. These baptized tunnel borers run relentlessly into earth, bearing their riverine names as if names alone may lift calamity into grace. What is ending is my desire that it should not. About time, they said. Much needed, they said. Take the future for what it is, a tunnel, they said. From who knows when to now or never. Now and then, I said, I took old certainties out, turned them this way and that, put them safely back. People, flood, memory. Who made me keeper of the city? Harm be kept at bay. I hoped too much and dreamt too hard, marked terrain like God or overlord. Like dog or overlord. Sorry, that was a Freudian slip. Hid my love in plain sight for all to see. I faced, in brutal light, a placid future. A plan takes shape. City, spirit, system. Move forever, past barrier and bandir, into this imaginable moment. Accept what is. Ahead is only sea. There once were times where we might have gone on, sidestepping undercurrents, living in reverse, against the wave. That's over now. Now to leap and land, to sink or swim. And now to end or to begin. Lines for where there is singing. And now to end or to begin, for the two can appear well nigh the same, dizygotic twins doffing willfully mismatched hats or helmet, that's all. Here be a canticle for those who transmute stray rocks, or maybe satellites, inert and aimless, into swirling constellations of lines and stations that sparkle and spin by moonless sunshine, as by night. The near 3,000 engine drivers that magic many millions of us across 20 hours and 130 miles the livelong day, through strikes and quite often bomb threats, seldom snow and frequent flood, more heat waves now, and first a choice tribute, all but exception for his folks' scares enliven my orbit, to the driver of RERB, who festooned the path from Aéroport Charles de Gaulle, Terminal 2 to Paris Gare du Nord, with a lyrical record of vistas non-existent. Enjoy the glorious sunshine, landscape and the lambent summer sunshine. To your left, rolling green pastures. This while cutting through tenements ashen with age and abuse. To your right, gaggles of geese. Don Quixote would be impressed. Said right featured piles of leavened garbage, some visibly airborne, though not avian. Behind you, way behind, the Atlantic Ocean. And in front, well, me, your driver. Both facts undeniable, even if the former at so many removes from reality as to form its own galaxy. Kind sir, thank you for infecting at least a trainful of choleric, overloaded daybreakers with laughter, reluctant, caustic though it was at first. While on RRB, and I seldom am, as he earlier confessed, here's a shout-out to Pablo Mira, clown prince among French satirists and malachite in the crown of national radio, who staked claim on behalf of Paris to the Summer Olympics 2024 with this masterly thesis. It leaps to the eye. Our capital should host these games. Oh yes, for Paris is the ultimate city for sport. Take me now. At my own modest level, I box, I scale rocks, I free dive, all at the same time during rush hour while boarding a carriage on RRB. A quick curtsy also to the gallant, a regular on my friend and colleague Charlene's daily pathway, who once revved up, stalled, delaying departure to announce, the apple cider of his voice ringing above the rattle and thrum and chatter of wheels and passengers. Hello there. This one's for the girl in the yellow dress, now tearing down the platform to catch this train. Slow down, mademoiselle. Catch your breath. We won't leave without you, that is a promise. 'Cause you see, we kind of have a soft corner and all the time in the world for the color yellow. Another, this time one to the quipster who finds the standard caveat broadcast about pickpockets prowling platforms and trains too prosaic and opts to ply a new format, upping the ante on soap opera. Ladies and gentlemen, keep your possessions close and your hearts under lock and key, for pirates of the heart are more rampant on these tracks, more insidious too, ungallant, alas, and a tad too quick. It takes artifice to traverse this our ancient, acerbic, resplendent wreck of a metropolis, day after day, this capital once proud, now panicked by past and future. Artifice, from the old, some 5 centuries old, Anglo-French term, artificium, ergo, craftsmanship, craftiness. Art too, vital skills, no lux. Artifice, from root words ars and facer, to make or do. Art, inevitably. Artifice to bear dewy-eyed tourists, denizens seen and unseen, legit and not, each day cussing, carousing, spitting, uncaring, combating, or worse. Art, if is, yes it is, to gift a lightened step to pensioners fearful of the cobweb of exits at Châtelet, to take a bone-tired band of plumbers home for a warm meal before their second shift. Art if is. Yes, to stoke giggles from dazed, wordless school kids after happily false terror threats. And to get Isa, late, scurrying from work once again, conscientious to a fault, to the other end of wakeful Paris, the distant, lofty 16e, just in time for Caroline Deleume's Theorbo concert. Velocity of sleep. In the city that goes to bed grudgingly, never quite dimming its night sky, coral streaked with dust. Singer drivers, smiley drivers, complete with Twitter handles. Fabulous drivers, quieter drivers. I name you all art makers, verily artifice, and bid you, whether I may or not, go forth, sing, josh, repaint bald, grave facts in sparkling shades of fiction, shiver our beaded sheets of decorum, soar above and dive beneath, and glide through the city, artifice.
It's on. Thank you so much. That was extraordinary. We're going to get some light on in here so you can see the audience and the audience can see you. We're also going to ask Joëlle to join us. Oh, wow, that's better. Because we're going to spend the last 15, 20 minutes of this evening talking about this quite extraordinary book. I think extraordinary in so many ways, and the first way I'd like to talk about is in its conception, because writers and artists notoriously as difficult to herd as cats, and you managed to get 4 of you to coordinate on this production, indeed across 2 continents. So I'd like to hear a little bit about the genesis of the project, where the idea came from, and how you managed to pull it together between the 4 of you.
Well, a bit of a caveat about writers and artists. We've been working together for a long time now, and this is our 2nd book, and you know, but entirely by accident, actually, and it all happened in various phases. Sampurna and I met after many, many years, which what is probably propitious is that we met at Kala Ghoda, which, as people who are familiar with Bombay know, is sort of the legendary neighborhood where the Bombay poets flourished. But we met, and she asked, we'd both come out of very long and solitary projects. She asked if I'd want to write something collaborative with her. And I wasn't expecting that at all. But when she said it, it made a lot of sense to step out of my little bubble. And I said, okay, but could we do it around the metro? Because that was something I'd been planning to do anyway. So we wrote to each other for about a year with nothing. And at that time, right in the beginning, I'd said, do you think if it goes anywhere, we could work with artists then? Because I'd already thought of Joëlle, and it had been 2 years since we last worked together. And she liked the idea, but, that was just in a corner of the brain. And then a year later, I showed these poems to the book office of the French embassy, who've been hugely supportive all through every crazy thing I've done with books and writing. And they said, do you have a wish list? Because they were putting together the program of a biannual festival they have. And I said, yeah, we'd love to work with visual artists. And that's how they made it come true. So then Sampurna had this really great idea that we should reverse the gaze when it came to the artist. So it's not the inhabitant, but the visitor.
Mm-hmm. And that was going to be my follow-up question, in fact. So why was the gaze reversed for the artist and, for example, not for the writer?
Well, I suppose it's just that was, for the artist, because the artist came second, as in chronology. And I don't think either of us was interested at that point in time in writing about another city's trains. We were sort of steeped in our own trains. Mm.
And for your part, Joëlle, the idea of capturing the metro of Mumbai, of this sort of sprawling network, were you familiar with it already?
You mean we've captured the metro or
yeah,
Mumbai?
Specifically the metro in Mumbai.
Because I used to draw in the metro here. I made many sketches. Each time I take the metro, I sketch. It does not work, I think. Si, il marche. Ah si, vous parlez comme ça. Yeah, so I sketch all the time, and so I'm familiar to sketch in the metro. But Mumbai, it was not my first time, but I spent, I think, less than 1 day last time.
Yeah,
so it was very strange feeling, because it was my first. We arrived in Mumbai and stayed just for a book lunch in the bookshop, so I haven't seen nothing. Mm-hmm. So it was really frustrating. And I was very happy to go there back. It was not so terrible, not worse than here. Mm-hmm. And so, but I was not alone. I was with Sampurna who take me carefully. She was very afraid when she left me to go back alone, and she called me. Are you safe? So, yeah, no problem. I took the wrong the wrong coach, but no problem. No, it was really a huge high experience, and I think it was easier to be with her because we were really on était le centre de l'attention dans le wagon parce que
Inevitably.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because I imagine when you're in Paris and you're sketching, you can be quite discreet, right?
I've never been discovered.
And did
Maybe, but people don't. Very shy, or I don't know, but they never say, "Oh, can I see your drawing?" Never.
But in Mumbai, yes.
Always.
Okay.
Yeah,
and did that affect the process of drawing?
No. For me, it's like I'm in my world. I can draw everywhere, so
okay.
It's not a problem. No, sometimes it's too quick and it's very. You miss so many things because it goes too quickly and.
So what we have in the book are the sketches as produced.
The sketches. That was the idea for my part. I really came there with the idea of just make sketches and no change, no redraw, nothing. Just the feeling,
which
direct.
was a different approach for
totally different than Roshni. Yeah, that's what I think is interesting, that she's totally different. And it was his first time in Paris. Vas-y, raconte.
Yeah, Roshni Vyam, so whose images interspersed Joëlle's, is just 23. It's just, I think we're still struck by, just how brilliant she is. So I had seen a drawing she had done when she was 13 in a mutual friend's office, another publisher. And so I'd written to him and asked him for contacts, and he put us in touch. She was free on those days, and then thanks to the French embassy, we had her over. And like Joëlle says, it was her first time in Paris. It was her first time out of Asia, and she would take the metro with me every day. It was very untouristy, but thanks to some mutual friends, she did see a bit of Paris other than the metro.
I had the same problem in Mumbai because I have just seen the line, the train, and that's all. No, not really, but.
Yeah, we were a bit monomaniacal, both Sampurna and I, when it came to our guests. She never drew a line. She would just observe, and all of it is produced later. There's not a line. She didn't even have a notebook out. The other thing she would do is record me reading the poems and then ask me to break down the stories behind them, which is why what you see is there's so much of subtext in it, because she also knew what went into those poems. Yeah.
I'd like to return to the subject of the metro as a subject for poetry and for artwork. I mean, Karthika, you said you had been thinking about it and working on it for some time. Do you remember what drew you to it as a subject in the first place?
I think because a whole lot of things. They're sort of beasts with very distinct identities. I mean, like one of the poems says, you could blindfold me and I would know line 8, just by the smell. And there are stations, and there are, there's certain, there are such distinct characteristics. It's like having a menagerie, but a very uncontrolled one. And I was fascinated by it from the first book. In fact, Bearings has a part of one of the poems that's there in this first part from 2007, and I had always said to myself that when I finished Until the Lines, I'd go back to the metro. And metros in different countries also have very distinct identities, apart from being beasts of their own, each line. It's a great leveler. You see such a cross section of humanity in such a short span of time, and with very little barriers, except the barriers that you give yourself through sight and gaze. I mean, speech.
It seems as well that people behave differently underground than they would on the street. At least, I mean, certainly in Paris, I find there are fewer barriers between people. There's people are more want to be aggressive,
they're more expressive.
Yeah. Was that something that appealed to you as well? The sort of that heightened emotional charge.
Yes. completely. I mean, it's almost like being in a, watching a lot of short films, because things happen between stations. I mean, you can have, a series of short films just from, and there are actually, it's nothing new in what I'm saying. There are a whole lot of filmmakers who've been obsessed with the metro as well.
And I guess, is it a similar thing for you, Joëlle? You said you've been drawing on the metro for
me,
a long time.
It's a huge tank of people. All different faces, and I can imagine who they are when I draw them, but they always on their phone.
Okay. That's how you can do it without being noticed.
Less in Mumbai, but everywhere in the world, yes. I think it's the same thing. People are not alone. Something of loneliness and sadness sometimes.
So many people, but isolated from each other.
Yeah, but I see a face, so not only a face, but a drawing. I see the drawing, so I don't draw everybody. I choose my proie, comment on dit?
Your prey.
My prey.
Yeah.
I choose my prey first, and try to have a different kind of humanity change. Not always draw the same kind of people. But people are very different. It depends on the part of the line. Sometimes I mean in Paris, in Mumbai, I didn't stay enough to have this kind of to understand who is this guy, who is this woman, where is she from, where is she going. Sampona explained me some things, but I think I see many interesting scene, different scene, like the Ijras, the beggar. When she left me the first day, she put me on the ladies' coach, but I went in the wrong coach, and I was in the disabled people coach, and I didn't understand why everybody showed me. I think it was because I thought it was because I was alone. So I said, no problem. I'm okay. But I realized that people were not exactly there's one arm guy, and something's wrong. So I went out the next station and changed coach, but it was very strange.
That's also something which should be acknowledged about this book, of course, because it's for artists, all women writing. And I think the way women engage with the metro, the way women use the metro, certainly in Paris, I imagine probably in Mumbai as well, it's a very different experience for women as it is than it is for men.
We can go to ladies' coach, man cannot. But we can go to ladies' coach and to normal coach, so we can see everything. A man can.
But were you conscious of that while working on this collaboration, the four of you, that it would be a sort of a perspective which perhaps for your male readers, something that would be quite a surprise to them, perhaps some of the interactions that take place, some of the perceptions that occur?
To be honest, I never think about the reader. Well, I think about 5 readers. That's it.
Okay.
But that's people I know. So I don't think about gender, age. It's more like, I would get too complicated, but one of them is because there's a very strong dance gaze there, and so I know he will see if I, but I didn't think about any reader, male or female. But the fact that we were 4 women, yes, that struck us very strongly at various moments in that entire, adventure.
Both in Paris and in Mumbai. And in what way?
Well, for instance, I think Roshni. I mean, it's a bit like what Joëlle said about Sampurna worrying. I would really worry when I took her and very late and put her back. She was staying with Joëlle, and we were two ends of line 7, and there was so many. I guess the sense of protectiveness comes in, etc. Okay, but I do that with a lot of my dancers anyway. They have a great capacity for getting lost. So male or female.
I think it's because she's young, not because she's
I think it's because she's young and it was her first time out. Yeah.
And another thing, of course, that is we're almost obliged to deal with when writing about the metro, and not just in Paris, but I think in a lot of metropolises, is that these networks are often the subject of attacks, terrorist attacks, and therefore, I suppose from a sort of tactical perspective, it's where there's lots of people together and you can do the most damage. And Karthika, you write about particularly the moving through the city on the evening of the attacks on the 13th of November, 2015. I'm fascinated by how it was as an artist, as a writer, to engage with these attacks. Was it something that you did very soon after? Was it sort of a reaction, a sort of a raw reaction to the events, or did you have to let things settle before engaging with it?
Almost a year later, and it was actually triggered. Usually, we didn't intend to mirror each other, Sampurna and I, in our poems. Our connective tissue was really the lines themselves. But Sampurna had written about the 2006 attacks and what it meant to be absent, because she was not in the city. And that triggered, in a strange way, the response of what it meant to be present and to have had somebody very dear actually exposed to the attack very directly, but to have forgotten him in the moments. So it was actually about oblivion as well. That entire evening, it's sort of a very cinematic poem because it breaks it down, and it's got a lot to do with the cinema as well, because that's where I was. It took me about a year. And it was it was really triggered by the question of what is it to be there, and in a sense to be oblivious when during the most important moments, to be safe and to have somebody not safe and not to have thought of them.
That was something that I've read quite a few, obviously a lot of journalism about the attacks, and also quite a bit of quite a lot of different artists engaging with the subject. And I was saying this to you a few days ago, that I found this an incredibly moving engagement with it, actually. I don't know, I suppose perhaps it was the medium and the sort of the rhythm, the way you write about it, that I was really drawn back to that night in a way that I think has rarely happened when I've engaged with other writing about it. It was it's an incredibly powerful experience to read it, so I can only imagine how it was to compose it. It must have been quite intense.
It was, and there was the added, I don't know if responsibility is the right word, but that the last part, I'm actually recounting Damia's experience. So there was this, there was the sense of I need to be true to him. I need to be very true, and make sure that it is clear it is a third-person account, but of something that we were very connected. Inadvertently, we spent the evening together, and it was just because I was going to go meet other friends that I left him. We were going to go for a walk, and so there was this a strange thing of this is not about me. It was a very delicate thing. He knows all about it, and he's got it, and we work together all the time. So I think more than anything else, that was the thing I was most concerned about. It needed to be true to him and to be his story, not mine. That last part.
Yeah, it's really, as I say, really struck me an incredible experience reading it. I'm conscious there will probably be questions from the audience, but before I hand over, I'd just like to come back to the conceptualization of the book and the way it has been published and the way it has been it was visualized, in fact, because anyone who's already had a chance to pick it up, and if you haven't, we do have plenty of copies at the front tonight, but they'll see that it's not just for example poem image. I mean, the whole visual conception of the book is quite elaborate, from the way the text and the images sort of wrap around each other, and also from the fact it's been published in this what we call dos à dos, I think. So there are two different ways to read it. Both, there's not a back cover, there's two front covers, and the poems meet in the middle. And I was just wondering if you could both talk a little bit about that collaboration. So once you had the artwork and once you had the poems, how it was brought together into this artwork that it is.
Do you want to go first?
I think it was not the easier part of the work because we were back home and very far away, and it was not so easy to communicate with the. We talk about that before going back with the the designer, the graphic designer. No, it was not the publisher. We met him once,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a graphic designer as well, so it was. For me, it was difficult because I had ideas, but I didn't want to be too intrusive and to say do like that and do like that. And I must say that it's not easy to make the design because of the poems. The shape is not. It's not like text. You can't change it. So easier. So easy way. So. I think he made a good work, but it was a difficult work. And my drawings, I say, okay, cut. You can enlarge and do what you do what you want. Fais-toi plaisir, quoi. But yeah. Roshni's drawings are very. Frames and it was not an easy work, so I think he made a good work in this.
Karthika.
He did, and all credit to him. But it did take a long time because initially it was the first proofs we got, they were quite conventional, and then Joëlle and I sat and broke it down a lot. Especially like she said, Roshni's, where things can be taken apart as leitmotifs and then brought together again in very different ways, etc. And the interesting thing was initially she'd done that already because my poems, a lot of them are concrete, they're visual already, and she had the additional burden of working around that. So she'd already done it, but for some reason that went, the graphic designer, I guess, was concerned about readability, etc. So initially it was quite conventional, and we must have seemed like four viragos to him actually at one point because, we were tumbling in from everywhere, Paris, Bombay, Bhopal, and pretty much simultaneously. So yeah, but no, it all came together. It took much longer, which is why you nearly didn't get the books on time. It took a lot longer than we'd planned. It was supposed to be ready by July.
And the dos à dos
that
concept
was actually something I suggested because of the nature of the poem. So the first half of the book is the traditional, Ranga format, even if they're not Rangas, which is that the last line of one person's poem becomes the first line of the next poem. We kind of did that for the first year, and then we thought we'd be a little more adventurous. And so the other part of the book, so all of this part of the book, actually, the very first poem is what you read as the last poem. And the last poem is the one which you kind of see first. So it's the first line of the existing poem which became the last line of the next poem. So and it would have been impossible to give that sense of counterpoint without it physically being so in the book. And Joëlle and Roshni played along with that and made the book in such a way that it was readable, and the publishers were great about that. I think that was an added headache in terms of just figuring out how to write different page numbers, something as banal as that.
I have to admit, when I finally did see the book earlier this week in its finished format, I did think, you did make your publishers work, and I mean the result is extraordinary. But
we had the idea of to make two covers, two different covers.
I can imagine there's a lot more grey hair at the the publisher now than there was.
Grey hair, high blood pressure, all that. But it's also a great way of, even if I say so myself, I mean we say so ourselves. It gives a great sense of parity because you have two covers and you have a section where Sampurna's poem is the first, and another where mine's the first, and one where Joëlle's image is there and one where Roshni's is. So,
So we probably have time for a couple of quick questions. If anybody would like to just raise your hand, and we'll run my microphone to you. Who would like to kick us off? Yeah.
How has the book been received in India? Has it been received?
Will it be received? You're seeing the very first copies.
Will you be doing this kind of event in India?
We already did it, actually. We did it a year before the book came out because it was...
We did a very strange reading in the metro of Chennai. It was very strange because it's totally empty. It's a new metro and it's totally empty.
The empty was the test run. We had 73 people in our carriage the day we did it.
And with the annonces, les annonces.
Yes, oh God.
It was very strange.
They have an automatic broadcast every minute, so we actually had to stop every minute.
And we have incredible ideas to draw on the walls now, but on the
panels, on the glass panels.
On the glass panels in the metro and sur les panneaux publicitaires. But there is no panels, and it's totally forbidden to to sketch something. So
have you approached the RATP about
Actually, the RATP were part of the research. They received us before we began the visual art thing. So Joëlle and Roshni and I went on Roshni's first day at Joëlle's place, and they gave us a sort of magisterial lesson in the history of the design of the metro. So they're part of the acknowledgements.
But they're not interested with things. They made events in the metro, but not events who talk about the metro. They don't want to talk about the metro. They want to make people
experience.
They don't want to talk about how you can tell each station on the Line 8 from how it smells, for example.
But I think that they don't want to have a bad experience. Or,
I think we have time for one more question, if anybody would like to. Yeah.
Will there be an audio available?
The book isn't even out in India yet. So.
Well, there will be an audio podcast of this reading, which you'll be able to download, and hopefully, depending on how our camera has picked up, there'll be a video presentation too, so do check that out. It's been a wonderful evening. Do stick around, continue the conversation, have a glass of wine. Of course, we have, as I said, we have plenty of copies of the book available at the front desk there. I'm sure that Joëlle and Karthika would be happy to sign them for you. I'm a bit worried now that everyone is going to ask for a screen and projector. I fear I've opened a can of worms, but it was absolutely wonderful. It was really a magical experience. So please join me one more time in saying thank you to Joëlle Jolivet and Karthika Naïr.